Hi, everyone. I see people are coming in slowly but surely because we're a bit early. Hi. Hi, everyone. I hope you are well. Looking forward to today's App Talk session. While we wait for the other people to join, since we're a bit early, let's just quickly run a poll like I always do. No, I think you should see it now. So let's talk about ASO challenges. Since today's topic is also somehow an ASO challenge, I would say what I would like to know is, what is your biggest ASO challenge? Is it finding red keywords? Is it analyzing ASO impact? Is it researching competitors, or is it something else? If it is something else, feel free to write it directly in the Q&A section. Then we could talk about it, or you just leave a question about it at the end of the webinar, so that we can discuss it at the end. Anyways, hi people that are coming in, welcome. We will start pretty punctually, I would say, today, because we have a lot of topics that we want to cover, or not topics, but we have a lot of information we want to share with you. I'll just leave the poll going for a bit longer. Let's leave it for a minute or so, and then we can start right into today's topic, which is how to analyze organic store, or actually how to analyze organic installs changes. Because sometimes we do ASO updates and then the installs are not as we expect. They're better, they're worse, and it's sometimes a bit hard to estimate how that happened. And that's why this is today's topic, I would say. Hi, people joining. You're very welcome. After a bit of a longer pause, I would say, we are back into our autumn webinar sessions at our best, I hope. Good. Let's just wait one more minute, and then we will start with the slides. Yeah, those people that selected other, please let me know in the FAQ section, Q&A section, sorry, what those other challenges are, because I would love to talk about it at the end of the session today. Welcome people that are coming. Cool. Then I would stop the poll now, if it's fine for everyone. And Elena, please be so kind to go to the next slide. So topics we are covering today are how to analyze your store listing performance thoroughly, how to understand the impact factors for your keyword ranking changes and installs changes, and finally, how we can create a well-performing metadata or a well-performing store listing. Stay until the end, stay tuned, because we have a promo code to share with you and also a checklist, as always. So next slide, please. Cool.
Sorry.
So today, who am I? I'm Rebecca. I'm a customer success manager here at AppRadar, and today I'm joined by the lovely Elena, who will now introduce herself and then start with today's topic.
Yeah, also hello everyone from my side, and thank you for the nice introduction, Rebecca. Very happy to be here today again, talking about, I would say, one of my favorite topics, or kind of one of, I would say, very important topic, how you can really analyze also the performance from an organic side. Yeah, I'm Elena. For those who don't know me, I'm working in product marketing here in AppRadar, and previously I worked also with various clients on their app marketing strategies directly on organic and paid performance, basically. All right, I would suggest we get already right away into the topic and start with how you can analyze your store listing and understand the different impact factors. And for that, I would jump right away inside the AppRadar tool to show you around how I would usually do an analysis. And you should see now my screen with the dashboard, I hope. We start here, and how I usually, here the example is like one of our testing apps. It's Ballscapes. It's a puzzle game, sorting puzzle game. We do the analysis now based on an Android app, but I will also give some tips and tricks in between on how it is or what differs in between for the Apple App Store. What is here, maybe important, I will go through the different steps, because like the process itself will be the same on how you think on what is now impacting a change or whatnot, will be very similar for both stores. All right, so how I usually get started is looking at, now the case is that for Ballscapes, I have on the one hand the developer account connected. That's why I see my performance metrics in App Radar. Plus I also have the Google Ads account connected, as well as the Apple Search Ads, which I have done in the other app, in the iOS app visible. But in that case, I do have connected also the Google Ads, which I see here below. What I like to call this page, this dashboard, is like, I would say, the heart of all your app marketing efforts, because it should give you on a high level the answer to burning questions. Like starting on top, let's get right into it, is like I get here the overview of what are now my top performing countries in terms of, in that case, I filter it here by installs, for example. I usually recommend to look at the longer time frame, so let's say last 90 days. Important to say here is, if you want from the beginning already to say, I want to know, I did some changes on my organic store listing, so I did an ASO update, for example, and I want to know, did now that ASO update have an impact on my performance, on my traffic, then I would recommend you to choose directly the date where you did the update. So let's say now, for example, the update was, I don't know, in end of July, then I would select exactly that date and analyze it based on there and see how the traffic, how the keyword rankings, etc. evolved. In that example, let's assume I did the update on the 11th of September, or I just want to get a high level overview, select it here. And I see already there was apparently a spike in USA on end of August. And now, of course, I would be interested, in that case, it's something positive, the traffic went up, but I want to know what happened here in order to be able to then replicate it or do it again in the future, because in the end what we want to have is more and more traffic. And the same would be, I would also want to understand why is now here, for example, a drop happening, and what kind of triggered that. What I do as a next step is also seeing here at the same time, it correlates with, in the United States specifically, I selected it here because I saw here the spike and I would want to know. I see here already, okay, also the conversion rate from store views to installs had a significant increase on that date. Logical, but still confirms me my first finding. On all the pages, I could also go directly in the detail page like I call it now, but basically click here on show all conversion rates or show all metrics, where it would take me then to the dedicated page with more insights, which we will jump then later in. But staying here now on the dashboard itself, as a next step, I would ask myself, so what did I do now? Which changes did I do that triggered that spike, or let's say also a decrease? If I had like now this decrease here, end of September, for example, I would also be very interested is like, what happened here? What did I do? What did I change? Or what like kind of was the impact factor behind? And one very important thing to consider here is the parts of having paid user acquisition running in the background. I can have had now, I do my regular ASO update, let's assume, or maybe I did not do any changes, but still just very important to mention how much impact it can have if you're running ads and now in that time period, for example, you reduced the spend or you stopped it, or you started ads, if we're talking about an increase. That's why, that's also one of the reasons in that case we have for Ballscapes only Google Ads running. And I see here then in that overview on a high level view, okay, how is it evolving in all countries? Is now in that case, how is the correlation between my organic and my paid traffic? So how much do now, for example, more Google Ads in a certain period also trigger an increase in total traffic? I would say in that case, we have been kind of stable with the Google Ads. I could also see it on a country level. If I would say now, example, United States, how is the traffic evolving there? And I see here already, we had a bit more Google Ads. It also triggered kind of, I would say not drastically, but it helped a bit also in terms of how it boosts my total new installs. I would say is still could be an indicator, leaving away all the other different impact factors. But if I would only look now at total traffic, how is the impact between organic and paid, then I would, in my first assumption would be here, yeah, it seems that having more ads also lead to an increase in my overall total traffic. I could then at the same time, if I see here now is, let's say, a spike or we saw that increase, and I would want to know, did I have now really more ads running in that certain period? I could also still stay in the dashboard and see here, for example, having the same time frame again, I had it selected here. I spent also, yeah, not significantly more, but almost 10% more money that I put in that period on ads. And then I can also see, did it? Yeah, apparently it also increased in terms of conversion by 15%, which is for sure now not explaining that spike. It seems also maybe as a side info, yeah, this like kind of very huge spike is most of the times connected to something like, for example, having now appearing in a TV spot on one day and people looking then for your app, or I don't know, having, yeah, like kind of this one day event. So also being featured in one of the top positions, let's assume like on the Today tab, really being there, could also be like if you're featured only for one day, could also be one sign here. But all of that we check then in the details pages. But here coming back just on dashboard. So we had said now, okay, we checked as a first step, how is it in total evolving? Then we look at, okay, is it impacted by paid user acquisition? Did I have more or less ads running? And did it somehow impact my total traffic? If I say no, it seems fine, yeah, didn't do any changes. If it had a drastic impact, then I would consider talking, either if you're running the ads yourself or otherwise talking with your paid user acquisition team to see if it really had such a significant impact, how can you come back to a normal traffic? But then besides paid user acquisition, the app performance itself, and I cannot highlight it often enough, is also a super important topic, because you can have, the best performing metadata, or like assuming the best performing, but a well-optimized store listing in itself, like you did your homework, you did include keywords there, important ones, you wrote it nicely, did a lot of testing in terms of creatives as well. But somehow still you see now that the installs go down, the keyword rankings go down, and you're not sure what happened. It is very often also correlated to, for example, a high crash rate that we can see here in mid of August. The app Ballscapes had now a high amount of crashes. And now it would be interesting to see, okay, did on that day or in that time period, yeah, not specifically that day, but shortly after as well, how did it impact the overall visibility? Usually what we can see is when I have a high crash rate and in general a bad user experience is, on the one hand, yeah, the users having that bad experience, leaving bad ratings could be one of the, I would say, the harm that you get a high amount of bad ratings. But on the other hand, also it is a sign to the algorithm then that your app is simply not performing well and they do not want to promote you inside the store. So having less possibilities for getting featured, for getting into top charts, into category rankings, and also having less chance to appear on top of the search results, because obviously Google Play as well as Apple App Store, they do want to showcase apps that are performing well. So also check out how is your crash rate and your overall user experience performing. And yeah, also the bad ratings I mentioned before is obviously also a sign for new users that you try to drive to your page. They would see again the bad ratings from other users and then resulting in a bad conversion rate. So I would say, yeah, really keeping that an eye on the app health or app performance itself is really crucial. And yeah, ultimately it will also result, if you have a high crash rate or bad user experience, it will also result usually in a higher uninstall rate, which I can check here for the different countries as well. And I could then also see, is now a higher uninstall rate also, how is the correlation between my uninstalls and also between my installs that I'm getting on a daily basis? Do I have like net users in the end more overall, or how is that impacted? All right, so now we covered also the part about crash rates, and like one step below is one, yeah, I would say in the ASO world, Super important topic, the keywords itself. And I said before, now we looked at USA, and I want to know now, in USA, for example, specifically, I see that, assuming that on 90 days ago, I did my ASO update, let's say, now I see, okay, apparently it had a positive impact on my overall top 30 ranking. So I gained 27 more positions in the top, 20 more keyword positions in the top 30. Now, what I would do as a next step is here looking at, okay, show me all those keywords, or show me all my keyword rankings, and which ones out of those will I ultimately take into my next App Store optimization update, meaning it's great that I improved the top 30. What we very ultimately want to get into is really the top 10. And like the ultimate North Star would be the top 1 keyword rankings to also benefit the most then in terms of traffic. When people looking for it, the highest chances of getting also downloads from those keyword rankings. But talking about keyword changes, this would be kind of the high level overview to see what is going on. Did it have a positive impact, my ASO update now, or did my whatever changes I did? It could also be something else, but most probably in that case, my ASO update that I had, I selected a date, I selected a dedicated country, and get an overview of how did that impact the top 10, top 30, and keyword rankings. But obviously, I also want to look at now, for example, which keywords were like now the most burning, I would call it, in a way, because we want to know the so-called losers here in the case of, meaning which keywords saw now the biggest drop since that period, and which keywords need probably my attention, because, for example, if we look at ball sort master, in that case is a long tail keyword, but it was, even though it has not a super high search volume, but I was in a top 10 position before, I would want to keep an eye on, did I do now any changes? I see I lost positions. Did I change it in the metadata? Did I have it included before in my store listing, but removed it now? Could check that inside the app timeline directly if I did any changes there. Or was it simply because I saw before I had a high crash rate? Did I get harmed by the store then afterwards, and it resulted then in a lower keyword ranking? Or was it now because I had in general less traffic due to paid advertising, for example, and then again I got also kind of less app power and less ranking power? All right. I can also then on the dashboard itself still check if there is anything going on in category rankings and featurings. In that case, the Ballscapes app was not featured on the category rankings. Otherwise, I would see it here, but I could still get an overview if I go here into details to see how is the competition doing there, and analyze their strategy to also get into it. And last but not least, as I teased before already, is ratings and previews topic. Here specifically mentioning, as I said before, if you have bad user experience, and how can you improve it further? Is there anything drastic going on? All right, so we got that high level overview. And if we jump into details view in the App Store performance page, when we talk about analyzing now the results from your organic performance, we have here, as a first step, I always recommend to start with which traffic sources are impacted. So when we talk about Google Play, we have here App Store search, App Store browse, and third-party referrer. And talking about App Store optimization, which traffic source we ultimately try to impact is App Store search. And what is important here to mention, but sometimes people kind of, I would say, are unsure about what is now included in App Store search. Because now, let's say I did my ASO update, and now I want in the next month, I assume that I have a 10-20% increase in App Store search traffic. I got now, okay, in that case, it's a nice example because we had an increase. But on the other hand, it could also be, why did I have that increase? Or like I see here in App Store browse or third-party referrer, why did I have now a decrease? And that can easily be that it is due to ads. Important for Google Ads, if we talk about Google Ads in that case, is that if you have running Google app campaigns, I would check that here in my ad performance page again, but then it is important to know that Google app campaigns can impact all 3 traffic sources. So it depends on where the user was before they landed in your store listing. It could be that the Google App campaign appears now, for example, as a YouTube ad, and it gets attributed to third-party referrer, or it is somewhere in the browse section, gets attributed there, or it's a simple in the search results, then it would be to App Store search. But we don't know that exactly on where it gets. It's like a bit of a magic black box from Google side. But in that case, I would recommend you guys to look at the total traffic and look at, as I showed you before on the dashboard, the correlation between total and Google Ads traffic to get a feeling if now the paid user acquisition was an impact factor here or not. When we talk about App Store search further, I would also recommend to, or what I usually do is, as I showed you before on the dashboard, but also checking in the keyword page directly. I have here prepared my keywords that I focus on. And I did, for example, an update, or we did back then an update, which I tagged. So in order to be able to quickly find it again, I tagged them as ASO. That were the keywords that I wanted to improve. It seemed that was a good job. Did some improvements there and some nice ones. But important here, is also to see then, okay, did now, for example, I lost search traffic. And it could be that I had now for, I don't know, for game, for example, I'm not ranking in that case, but assuming that I would be ranking beforehand on a position, on a top 10 position, and it has also a very high search volume, that keyword, and all of a sudden I dropped by 30 positions. Then I already have my reason. Obviously, that was one of the reasons why I lost a lot of search traffic, because before I was appearing in top of the search results. Now I lost the keyword ranking there, and the search traffic is also decreasing because of that. Then what would I do? Trying to see what was the change, as I explained before. Did I exclude it now from my metadata? Did I have bad app performance? Did I have less ads running? And trying to get back again to stabilize the whole traffic. I could also then see how it evolves over time for a more deeper analysis. Or one more thing, when we talk about search traffic, keyword ranking on the one hand. All right, did there were any changes? Or we could jump directly into how did the search volume evolve over time? Why is that an important thing to look at when we talk about analyzing organic traffic? It's simply because I can still have a stable performance, as I see here as well. The keyword rankings improved, but probably one of the keywords had simply less search volume or was changing over time. In other words, the search behavior of people changed. A classical example would be here those seasonal keywords, where, for example, Black Friday gets a lot of attention. A lot of people are looking for that keyword versus Black Friday time. People, shopping apps then ranking on it, but shortly after, the search volume or the search behavior simply changes again, because in January people are not looking anymore for that keyword, and then also the traffic behind that you would be getting will be decreasing. Also, that can be a big help when you're looking and trying to find impact factors. Good. Then I would say, search traffic we kind of covered, versus I still quickly want to say one more thing when we talk about Apple searches, because now we are focused on Android, and I told you that Google App campaigns, impacting all three traffic sources. Apple searches makes it a bit easier for us to calculate the organic impact. We have here at least the possibility, when we talk about search results campaigns and the search tab campaigns, those two existing and older I call it now, formats give me the possibility to calculate the organic share of apps to search traffic. I would simply take the number of total apps to search traffic and then calculate it basically minus the Apple searches installs that I get, and I would get out of it then the organic share. On the other hand, the new quick mention, the new ad placements that Apple announced now to go live, or basically you can book them now, but they will be able to be live end of October. They will be attributed to App Store Pros, and it would be exactly the same calculation again, taking the total installs from your App Store Pros traffic and then calculating it minus the ads that you got from the Today tab and from the You Might Also Like section. So from those two new ad placements that Apple provides. Other impact factors on browse traffic, also important organic options would be now here, especially talking about featurings that are calculated in there or attributed there, as well as category rankings. And if you see here now a drop or any changes in traffic, I would recommend you to check out how are those featurings and those category rankings evolving compared to the previous time period. You can simply come here in those features in App Radar directly. I mean, now it's just an example app, but check out how is it now for a dedicated app. Obviously Netflix, as an example, is very heavily featured, but our app was not the Ballscapes app, didn't made it there yet, but hopefully we will. But simply could check out here, was there now any changes in terms of how many days I was featured? Was I less days featured, more days featured? Did I appear in another featuring location? It might be a big difference if I appear in the Today tab versus I appear in some subcategory, for example, or the same for category rankings. How did it evolve over time? And I can also analyze that directly in here. I would simply come to the dedicated category and then, I mean, that's now the example of Netflix, but could see how are the changes evolving over time. I'm talking a lot now, Rebecca. I think I'm already a bit over time, but let me quickly come to an end here on the App Store performance page itself. We covered now App Store search, App Store browse, and now to end this kind of traffic source topic, the third-party referrer, here would be everything basically happening what is outside of the store. So if you had now, for example, more Facebook ads running, or in that case, we heavily decreased the ads outside the store. That's why we have here also the drastic change in installs. Or it could also be, as said, Google ads that were appearing outside of the store would be also attributed here. And if I'm like, now I know some impact factors, but what could be a helper here is also when I look at the conversion rate per sources feature in App Radar, it shows me directly also, for example, gives me an answer to was now an app release that I did or a metadata update. And here in that case, we changed in Canada the short description. And I know exactly, okay, shortly after, apparently it helped me to increase the conversion rate. Here we did another update again in Canada, and it had also seemed to be a positive impact on conversion rate. And so in other words, also on my total traffic. The same I could do on a country level, also in terms of conversion rates or in terms of my total traffic, and simply come here into the different sections. I think that covered the main parts. One last point, what I would recommend to look at when I want to analyze why did now my traffic change, etc., is like looking at what is the competition doing. And I could simply come here into app downloads and understand, okay, did now some of my competitors gain more traffic over that time period and kind of took away the traffic from my app? I think, this kind of analysis in terms of your own performance together with competition, and I could talk here now for another half an hour, I think, on how you can analyze the competition, but should be already, I would say, great help and covers the main parts on how to analyze it thoroughly and understand the impact factors.
Cool. Then let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, I think you should see it now, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Then just let me take over here from Elena. Good. So now we heard how we can analyze our efforts basically and how we can understand how everything changed. But the main question after this is, how do we then adapt our metadata based on that? Or ideally, since ASO is a continuous effort, I would say, how you can, either before or after analyzing, create a winning store listing. So the first thing is that you need to find relevant keywords for your app. So the most important thing is that you build a keyword backlog that fits your app. So you use keywords that describe what you're doing, and then you also check what your competitors might be using, but be careful there. The keywords need to be relevant for you, especially because they need to fit you. Then as a second step, you try to find good balance between search volume and difficulty. We will talk about this a bit later in more detail. And yeah, in the beginning, don't go into super competitive keywords, because yeah, it might be a bit hard depending on your category to actually rank well on those keywords. And you want to really be in a top 10 position with your keywords, because people are very lazy. They don't like scrolling. I think we all know that. And so ideally you want to be as high as possible. So top 10 is our goal there. And in the next step, as I said, you just try to understand what are the search volume and difficulties that might appear. So the first thing that you are checking is the keywords you already do rank on, and try to find, okay, is this my good ranking? Can I improve this ranking? How's the search volume of this? What's the difficulty of this? If you're already ranking quite high on a high search volume keyword, you can target that keyword even harder, I would say, and try to improve your ranking there. If your position is a bit lower for a high ranking keyword, it might be a bit harder, but of course it's all a bit a testing. So I would still try to integrate keywords that you already rank on even more in your metadata fields to kind of trigger the algorithms, more and more. And then ideally you start tracking those keywords so that you have an overview of the keywords you used, and then you can have a better overview of the performance basically and how the rankings evolve over time. In the next step, so you go back into the rankings page, as I said, you try to find out, okay, what are the keywords I rank on? Is there a keyword that I don't want to be found under? Is there a keyword that I'm not ranking on so well? Those are things you should ask yourself when you check your keyword rankings. There could be very low search volume keywords that you think, okay, I don't really need to rank on that keyword because people are not looking at this keyword anyway, or a keyword that just doesn't fit your app and that's why it doesn't bring you any installs. You can also check your installs by keywords under your app performance page. I think Elena showed you that before also. That's also very important to understand, okay, some keywords just don't have the right fit for you. And what's really cool is ideally you also localize your store listing, right? But we are not all multi-language people, so you can just translate those keywords and understand if this is a fitting keyword or not. And then you include it to your tracking list. On your tracking list, as Elena showed you, you have this very nice chart where you can see how the ranking evolved over time. This helps you to estimate if you are using this keyword, I would say, correctly, or if there's still space for improvement there. Ideally, you can see the changes. So I would filter basically by the change that you did. You can check with the pre-period of your update and then the post-period of your update and see if the change actually brought something to you, because you always want to rank better and better on keywords that we target for an update, right? And here, what is very nice is that you can target your keywords. You could do, I don't know, ASO update January and ASO February, and then you have a nice overview for the keywords that you used in January and those that you might have used in February for your update, and see what the correlation is there, if any changes that you might have done affected your rankings there. Then the question comes up, how do we actually start ranking on a keyword, or how do we improve ranking on keywords? So of course, to actually rank on a keyword, you need to put it into your metadata fields, which means, the fields we will look into a bit later also, but yeah, you add your keywords into your metadata field and you try to push them to a top 10 position, because it's more important to rank high on many keywords and on many keywords that might not fit or not be the one keyword that really is the perfect explanation for your app. For example, if you are not so well known, your brand name might not be under the top 10 positions, but another keyword that explains your app might be. And it's more important to rank on more keywords on higher position than on one really good keyword on a lower position, because this means that you might just not be found under that keyword. So try to really mix and match basically the search volume and the difficulty. Ideally, you have a very good mix there. So in the beginning, I would really, as I said, don't go too competitive. Try to go for keywords that have medium search volume and medium difficulty. In the beginning, the app stores are very nice and they kind of try to push you on new keywords, I would say. But then after time, you're out there in the app store ocean and with your competitors on the same page. So yeah, try to find a good mix. And what I would never do is include low search volume keywords in your keyword field for iOS. Try there to put keywords that have good search volume, because this really might help you to rank higher and to be found more easily. And also, of course, if you localize for iOS, there's a cool trick with the secondary localization. I can send you the article in the follow-up email if you're interested, where you can really try to rank better on keywords with using the second localization trick. And of course, yeah, localizing in general is very important because people really like to speak in their own languages. I think we all know that feeling. And this way, yeah, we can attract a broader audience and really push your search, your visibility basically on a global scope. So now let's look into the keyword fields or the metadata fields actually, because for Google and iOS, there is a bit of a difference. So for Google to rank on a keyword, we really want to repeat keywords at least twice so that the algorithm understands, okay, you want to rank on that keyword. For iOS, don't repeat keywords. iOS is no fan of duplicates because they really understand once you use the keyword, okay, you really want to rank on that keyword, they will try to integrate it in their algorithm somehow. But how the algorithm actually works is still a black box. But what we do know is that for Apple, so I mean, a thumb rule is the higher keyword field, the higher the impact for your ranking. And the more weight the algorithms will give to you, meaning that the app title and the app name are the most important keyword fields. So put your super relevant keywords in those fields and then prioritize the keywords based on the fields from up to down, you know? So the most important keywords go to the title and the name, and then the least important keywords you can put in your long description. But as I said, no low search volume keywords in the keyword field, because that is really your joker, I would say, to still use keywords that you might, use competitive keywords there, because this is your chance to really rank there. So what are now the metadata fields that the stores are considering in the algorithm? For Apple is really the app name, the subtitle, and the keyword fields. So try to use all the available spaces so that you can put all the keywords that you really want to rank on in there. And after that, of course, also the app URL, the in-app purchases and the in-app events. As Elena said, the app performance is very important so that you don't get punished basically by the stores. This also has an impact on your rankings. And also your ratings and your reviews, your updates, because the stores like that you show that you're active and trying to improve your app based on your customers' feedback. And also download and engagement rates are very important for the App Store. These are actually the same factors for Google, but for Google, there's also the long description, where you can really try to repeat and use keywords more and more often so that you really rank on them in a nice way. Of course, both stores have hidden factors that they're not telling us app marketers, right? But if you're doing well with your performance and if you really target your keywords well, you have a good chance to rank high and have a good visibility, I would say. So now we have prepared a little checklist for you guys so that you can really get started into optimizing and create great store listings. So for the analyzing part, the goal is, of course, that you ensure that you use relevant keywords and that your product page or your store listing in this case is very appealing. Actually, this is for metadata, sorry. I switched the things up. So the first thing is, as I mentioned, you set up keyword tracking for meaningful keywords. So this is your keyword backlog. Then you implement those targeted keywords in your store listing. In the next step, you try to learn from those initiatives and try in the new iteration to include those learnings basically. Then you always try to compare across the channels and understand the correlation between organic and paid, because also your ads have an impact on your rankings, of course. And finally, you try to evaluate and build the basis for the next update. What I forgot to mention is how often you should actually do an update here. This is important. Updates are important, so try to have an update every month or every 2 months. The algorithms, don't do it too often because the algorithms need time to learn. For Apple, it's around 4 weeks that the algorithm needs to learn, and for Google, it's around 6 to 8 weeks. So try to do your updates in those spaces so that the algorithms can learn and then be re-triggered in a nice way. And then for the analysis part, let's go back into the checklist, is you try to understand why the traffic changed and how you can overcome any negative changes that you didn't mean to have happen. First thing, you try to get an overview on your, like a higher level overview that you can do very nicely on the dashboard. Then in the next step, you try to understand which traffic sources and which countries might be impacted. And then finally, you try to understand what impacted those sources. And then you try again and do your best to overcome those changes, basically. Good. We have now 5 minutes left. If you have questions, I can see that a few questions are already there in the Q&A section, sorry. Just leave them there and we can quickly look into them. Any question that we might not be able to answer today because of timing or something, we will answer in the follow-up email, of course. So the first question is from Camille. Hi, Camille. So for me, it's about finding the strategy between ranking in more keywords and or improving the rank. Thank you. I think this is still related to the poll I did in the beginning, right? So between ranking on more keywords and improving the ranking. So ideally, as I said, you try to improve the rankings on keywords you already rank on. For Google, you can do that by increasing the density, but what could also sometimes help if your density is too high, that you decrease it a little bit, or that you move the keywords in the different metadata fields. So for example, a keyword that might have been in your subtitle, try to put it into your title and see what happens there. Or also the position, like the first word in your app name is the most important word for the algorithm. So maybe having your brand name always on first position, especially if your brand is not super well known, is not the best strategy. Elena, if you agree, maybe if you have something to add, just unmute yourself and come here. And for new keywords, maybe I will check what your competitors are ranking on. You can do that nicely in the competitor section in App Radar. So like under keywords, then rankings, and then you can check out your competitors. And if there's a relevant keyword for you as well, you can track it and then try to add it into your metadata fields. Good. Next question. I think this is for you, Elena. Do ads from web, like Google search ads, have any impact on keyword rankings?
Yeah, happy to answer that. I mean, good question. I would say in general, yes. Thinking from the perspective that any traffic that you get more is usually giving your app more power, and therefore also more like I like to call it more app power and more ranking power in the end. Because once your app is getting more traffic, it's usually also reflected inside the stores in different places. For example, I'm having now a download spike. Usually I would also help me to get higher positions in the category rankings, and it's like kind of a growth loop. At the same time, when you mention now specifically Google search ads, is something where I would clearly recommend to focus on Google, to use Google app campaigns specifically if you want to drive traffic to your app, because usually the conversion rate there is better, and you also have a better user journey that guides them directly to the app. When we talk now, for example, Facebook ads, when we talk about Facebook ads coming from web or app, definitely something that can have an impact and would be then, or can have a huge impact and would be then attributed to third-party referral traffic, or when we talk about Apple to app referral or web referral, depending on from where it was coming, but definitely can have an impact, and also an indirect, I would call it, indirect impact on keyword rankings. because based on the example that I brought before, yeah, simply it's more traffic that you get to your app will also help you to rank higher. The more downloads you're getting, the more power you have, and the more easily it will be to also rank on certain keywords. I hope that answers the question.
Cool. Then there's a question. Are you guys planning to organize a webinar regarding review management in future? I mean, I could put it, of course, in our backlog. I think right now it's not in the backlog yet. If you want, you can just write me an email afterwards. I think there is something already about review management that we did in the past. Just write me an email and I can look up the content for you. If you want, you will find my email on the last, wait, I can go to the last slide. You can just write me an email here, and yeah, I will gladly try to find the content for you. If there is no content, I will of course put it in our backlog, because review management is very important and it's also very easy with AppReader. Cool. Then I'm referring to the impressions, door views, installs for the weekly and monthly view, like on the App Store Connect, very useful for larger timeframes. I think, Elena, this is also still related to your upper question, right?
Yeah, it was from the previous question. Thank you, Fabienne, for the feedback here. Yeah, what we do show in AppReader right now is depending on which time frame you select. So basically on the App Store performance page, for example, when you select now time period, whatever you want to look at, and then it shows you compared to the previous period. That's how we currently tackle it, also available for longer time frames, for example, and also possible to look at the weekly, monthly view. But as I understood, yeah, I'm happy to take the feedback further and to take it, for example, as an different showcasing of the views based on week and month. Thank you.
Okay, so I would actually call it an end now, because the webinar is over in 1 minute and I don't want to take more of your time than is necessary. I will have all the questions answered in a follow-up email, I think latest on Monday or Tuesday next week. So don't worry, everything will be answered. For now, thank you very much for joining. And here, so like, first of all, follow us on LinkedIn, because we have weekly news for you. It's called the App Snack, and it's very cool. So if you want to be up to date on app marketing news, just follow us on LinkedIn. Second thing is your promo code. I think you all heard that we have new plans that are stronger and better and very, very specific for ASO or for like a whole app marketing journey, including ads. If you want to try those new plans, feel free to do that. Actually, please do that. You can use our promo code AppGrowth for it, that you can get 30% off your first month. And if you have any questions, feel free to write to me directly via email, via LinkedIn, whatever you find of me, just write me. I'd be happy to answer all your questions. And now I stop my screen sharing. So thank you very much for joining. I will send you the follow-up email. We will hear each other in the next webinar. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a lovely rest of the day.